Welcome back to the Shire. Today, I want to talk a little bit about controllers. And it's not so much my take on controllers, but really my experience on controllers in a home racing environment, really. And I'll get right down to it. Bang for your buck. Even though we understand that a slot car controller oftentimes costs more than the price of maybe two good quality cars, or maybe slightly more than a high-end NSR car or a Thunder slot or something like that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be in the $125 to $165 range for a controller that allows you to not just pull the trigger, but actually control some aspects of your driving skills out there, to enhance your driving skills, I should say. For me, there's no better place to go than Professor Motor. And I've had some experience with other controllers. I've had some experience in commercial environments with Coford controllers and a couple of other ones that are more typical to that environment, where maybe they have a brake, but the initial sensitivity setting has a certain specific ohm already built into it, whether it be a low ohm, a 3 to 5, or a higher that just has built-in sensitivity in the brake. Those serve their purpose maybe for wing cars, Lexan body cars and things like that, where you're just boom, you're trying to be on. You're either on or you're off when you're hitting the gas pedal, right? But you need some braking power. But in the home racing environment, really, depending on whether you're running, between 9, 10 volts, or even maybe all the way up to 14, 15 volts, to me, again, I really believe that the simpler you can keep things, but with an understanding of what you can do to help yourself, I believe that these are such well-made controllers, easy to clean, and we'll talk about that too, and what they provide for you. There's certainly, Third Eye, Slotted. There's so many controllers out there. I know nothing about digital racing. I'm not going to pretend to tell you that, you could use this from a digital racing perspective. You can't. If any of you know that from a digital racing perspective, then you already know you can't. So I'm talking analog racing first and foremost in a home racing environment. But don't be fooled. You can also bring this controller to a commercial environment and do more than well. I have won races by bringing one of these racing controllers to a local slot car place and done 124th NASCAR hard body, had no issues whatsoever. Maybe I had to turn the sensitivity quite high to be able to do it. But you're going to get your three leads. You're going to get your 3 leads here. Pardon me. You're going to get your positive, your negative, and then your connection lead. And of course, your connection lead between these two is what simply, when you pull the trigger, right, they connect on your track. Simple explanation. And then you've got your brake for your brake ohm or your resistor. Now, what we do also at Hobbit Racing, which was again a culmination of what Scott Culp did years ago, we just put a little track call button right on the side of here, and it goes right through it goes right through the whole entire race control system, where we've got just simply the built-in ability, because of the fact that you can see behind me, it'd be very difficult to marshal 3 sides of the track, not just 2, because where you're standing at the driver's station, you can't just have a marshal standing there and cut in front of a driver, right? So the only side that you can marshal is this side right here, and then the 2 walls and where the driver stations are. So we built in a call station here, and again, you can use your own imagination or your own racing acumen if you're the race director, and build in penalties, but we have some good racers, and it's good racing etiquette. And when you D-slot, you hit the button, and yeah, everybody quote unquote pays the price. But you all know, if you're the one that D-slotted, you lose about 2 seconds yourself, and the other people might pay a small penalty, but they didn't D-slot. So that's just a nice feature that we added. It's not so much that it's part of the controller. We put those in there for a $2 part, and then just speaker wire or what have you. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is what you can do with these controllers by dialing in the sensitivity and the brake in a simple controlled environment, where you wouldn't expect folks to need to choke the voltage on the track, right? I mean, in commercial environments, you have to check and see if it's allowed. It's the old expression, slower is faster, right? If you can choke the voltage down, you're going to gain some advantages if you know how to do that. There's also traction control, and then there's also power bands, right? There's also power bands that, in the Professor motor controllers, in the DeFalco controllers, where you have the DD304 as opposed to the 302. I think that's already got a power band built into it. I think the 304 and above, you can take an entire chip and buy it and replace it, and it changes the power band. Now, again, with all due respect to that, buy it if you want to, but you don't have to unless you're maybe a professional slot car driver, right? Or let's say you're just willing to make the investment and you're going to head out to Electric Dreams and it's allowed for that. You're going to head to Cloverleaf Racing and it's allowed for the NSR Nationals to have that controller. Then absolutely more power to you. There's a place for all of our manufacturers of slot cars and our controllers. But what I'm really getting at here is in the home racing environment, for example, where I run at 9.5 volts, there's every reason to want to be able to still come into the corners with quality braking so that you can, in theory, and I'm going to break this down very simple, you are deciding, do I want the electrical potential to be immediately taken away from the track and the car's braids, or do I want it to slowly or more slowly be taken away, hence turning down the brake, right? If you have it up at noon on the brake one, you're saying, the moment that I let off this trigger, stop the electrical potential. And conversely, with the sensitivity, the more you turn it up or, reduce the ohms resistance between there and the track, the faster you're telling it to give the electrical potential to the track and turn your braids on. At least that's my simple explanation behind it. But those two features in a home racing environment, in my view, are the two most essential things that you need to do if you have your car set up appropriately. The fact that there's multiple ways that you can buy these for leads. I like the Slot Car Corner driver stations. I think I'm going to be in the way no matter what I do, so you won't be able to see my driver stations. But I have the posts with the colored discs. And again, my track, I have all 4 controllers there. You don't need to bring your controllers. Come on down to Wesley Chapel. Come on down to the Tampa Bay area. Bring some cars if you want to. You can borrow any of my cars and run them, but you're not going to have to bring a controller when you come down here. And the other nice thing about these controllers is you have easy access to clean that wiper band right there. And Professor Motor does a wonderful job of giving you a 2 or 3 page PDF that explains to you what you can do. Now, I will tell you there's a number of things you can do. Q-tip CRC, Q-tip and some Lucky Bob's braid cleaning juice, right? They're all things that are going to get rid of that copper buildup every single time that you're going like this. That electrical conductivity has to start somewhere, and so you're building up carbon between there every single time you're doing that. Little bit of oil sometimes in between there on the trigger. And the other thing is too is with a matter of very few screws and very little understanding, so long as you're not having to take apart or replace one of the 2 resistors on the back of it, if I'm even calling that out the right way, but what controls the ohms as far as, those pieces on here where you're dialing it in, which can be done as well if you're good at soldering. There's such easy maintenance opportunities. You can take these apart. You can replace the trigger. Sometimes, you've got this death grip trigger situation where folks feel like the faster or the harder, and I'm guilty of it too myself sometimes, the more oh, my car's got to go faster. Well, whether you're a nice and easy, relaxed driver and you still got speed and skill, or you're oh my God, I got to death grip this thing when I'm over at the driver station. Sometimes people grab onto this in a way where they slightly bend the trigger in one direction or the other as they're pulling it. I mean, a new trigger is what, $3 or $4, a new spring. So for me, again, there's so many controllers that are out there that allow us to get the job done. But from my experience, my learning, the mentoring that I've had coming through the 132nd scale racing and even the 124th scale racing that I've done, and I'll bet you could use these in an HO environment too, where there's dozens of feet of HO track below that track in boxes that we bust out during the holidays and we bring it in the house, and all the younger kids set up the HO in the living room. these are just a fantastic solution. So I'll put the link to this directly to Professor Motor. Sure, you could get them elsewhere, but it's a Professor Motor controller. Let's give Professor Motor some love and go get these at Professor Motor up there in Michigan. So hope you enjoyed my take on controllers in the home racing environment. By the way, there's ones that are set up for positive polarity, negative polarity, ones that I think are okay if you switch, if you have a track switching polarity. And there are even more advanced controllers than the 2111 controller that I believe is this model. So, get yourself a nice controller. I think it's a fantastic idea, whether you can provide them for others if you have a home racing environment. But I really believe that this is the easy solution. And then if you want to go to a commercial environment, or if you're going to a commercial environment and you are going to perform in a high-end race where you have to stick to certain constraints, where you're hitting the specifications for your car, and everybody else there is bringing their DeFalco DD304, and you can bring different chips to see the acceleration profile, and you want to set some traction control, absolutely go for it. I'd be the first person to do it myself if one day I want to head out to Electric Dreams and go for the slot at Nationals, or one day, Mike, get up there to see you guys in Michigan, and maybe I'd still bring this with me on your track. Who knows? But at the end of the day, show some love for Professor Motor, and I feel like they're a great solution when you're in a home racing environment. So thanks for watching. Give me your feedback in the comments. Let me know what your favorite controller is. Just because this is my favorite controller doesn't mean it's yours, right? And hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. It really helps out the channel. So thanks for watching. Different topic for today. No cars in the video other than what's over my shoulder. But thanks for watching. Have a great day.
If you don't subscribe to Hobbit Racing, I'll poke you with my staff. Pokey, pokey, pokey.
She will poke you with her staff.
Poke!